You know how they say a week is a long time in politics? Well, back in April of 2026, it took just a few days for a major political earthquake to hit. A rising star completely switched sides, shaking his party right to its core. We're going to break down the story of Raghav Chadha's shocking split from the Aam Aadmi Party and his move to the BJP.
I am the right person in the wrong party. I mean, just listen to those words. That's a huge statement. This came from Raghav Chadha himself, one of the most recognizable faces of the Aam Aadmi Party. So what on earth could make him decide that the party he'd spent years building was suddenly the wrong place for him?
Well, because on April 24th, 2026, it wasn't just Chadha walking out the door, it was a full-blown exodus. Seven out of 10 of AAP's members in the Rajya Sabha, India's upper house, all quit together to join the ruling BJP. This wasn't just a simple resignation, you see. This was a massive strategic play that absolutely crippled AAP's power in parliament overnight.
So, how in the world does something of this magnitude even happen? To really wrap our heads around it, we first need to look at the key players who were pulling the strings in this major political shift. Yeah, this was no solo act. Just look at the names involved. Of course, you have Chadha, the rising star, but with him was Sandeep Pathak, a key party strategist. And get this for a twist. Ashok Mittal, the very guy who had just replaced Chadha as the party's deputy leader, he defected too. When you add in well-known figures like former cricketer Harbhajan Singh, it becomes pretty clear this was a carefully coordinated move by a really powerful faction within the party.
All right, so that brings us to the million-dollar question. Why? I mean, after 15 years with the party, what possible reasons could Raghav Chadha give for a move this drastic? Let's dive into his side of the story. So, at the big press conference where they announced the move, Chadha laid out his case. He basically said the AAP he knew and helped build was gone, that it had completely lost its way and strayed from its founding principles. And then he dropped this line, saying he didn't want to be part of the party's alleged crimes. He framed his choice as being between two options, either quit politics for good or go somewhere he could pursue what he called positive politics.
But to really understand why this sent such shockwaves, we have to rewind the clock just 3 years. In an interview, Chadha did not hold back about the BJP. He called them, and this is a direct quote, a party of illiterate goons that gave patronage to criminals. Wow. I mean, you can't get much clearer than that. Now contrast that with what he said on April 24th, 2026. As he was announcing his move to join them, Chadha praised the very same party, saying they all felt fortunate to work under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That whiplash, that complete 180, is really at the heart of this whole debate. So, as you can probably guess, the Aam Aadmi Party had a very different story to tell. So let's look at how they fired back against what they were calling an act of massive betrayal. Okay, so what you have here are two completely opposite narratives. Chadha says AAP lost its way, AAP fires back, this is a betrayal of Punjab. He says I'm the right person in the wrong party, they claim he'd been soft on the BJP for a while. He calls his move positive politics, they call it a pre-planned, orchestrated defection. And while he talks about not being a part of AAP's crimes, his old party uses the washing machine line, which is this common political jab that suggests the BJP uses federal agencies to pressure opponents, and once they join the party, all their problems magically get washed clean.
And the response from the very top of AAP, it was swift and it was sharp. The party's leader, Arvind Kejriwal, put this out on social media. He framed the whole thing not as just some internal party drama, but as a direct betrayal of the people of Punjab, which is the state these MPs were elected from.
So did this really just come out of the blue? Was it a total shock? Or were there signs that something was wrong? Well, the evidence suggests this split wasn't sudden at all, but was actually the final explosion after months of tension building up right under the surface. Let's just walk through the timeline, because it's pretty revealing. On April 2nd, in what was a pretty surprising move at the time, AAP removes Chadha as its deputy leader in the upper house, and they replace him with Ashok Mittal. Okay. Less than 2 weeks later, the Enforcement Directorate, a federal agency, raids properties connected to that new deputy leader, Ashok Mittal. Then, just 9 days after that, you see both Chadha and Mittal standing side by side at a press conference, announcing they're joining the BJP. The timing of it all is, well, it's pretty interesting to say the least.
So, we've covered the who, the why, and the how. But what does this all mean for the bigger political picture? Let's take a look at the legal rules that made this possible and the immediate fallout.
Now, you might be wondering, wait a minute,
How can they just switch parties like that? Isn't that illegal? And you're right to ask. In India, there's a pretty strict anti-defection law. It basically says if you're an MP and you just up and leave your party, you can be kicked out of parliament. So how did they get around that?
Well, the answer comes down to one crucial kind of magic fraction: 2/3.
That's the loophole. The law says that if at least 2/3 of a party's lawmakers all agree to merge with another party, it's not technically a defection. It's considered a legal merger. And since 7 out of their 10 MPs left, they were just over that 2/3 line. And just like that, they could switch to the BJP without losing their parliamentary seats.
The immediate impact on AAP's power was, to put it mildly, brutal. Before all this went down, they had 10 members in the Rajya Sabha. After, their strength was slashed down to just 3. That is a devastating blow to their ability to have any real say in what happens in the upper house.
So, this whole affair leaves us with one big final question. When a young, rising political star like Raghav Chadha, someone who literally built his entire career on an anti-establishment, anti-corruption platform, makes a switch this dramatic, what are we really seeing? Is it a genuine crisis of conscience, a true belief that his old party had lost its soul? Or was it a cold, calculated move for political survival in a tough landscape? The truth, like always in politics, is probably somewhere in the middle. But it's a question that really gets to the heart of this entire fascinating story.